Off Market, the show where we spill the beans on what is really happening in the Perth property market. Welcome back, episode 15, Shane and Roscoe. How you feeling today, gents?
On top of the world, peaking, mate.
Peaking, I know. You've taken 25 calls since you arrived.
Open forum office.
The loudest. Very, very exposed here.
We're in our spiritual home.
Feels like Apple. Feels like Apple when you walk
Apple,
in.
yeah. This is the Google.
The Apple store.
The Google of with no freebies.
The Google of real
estate.
Yeah. We're at the crib office today, guys. So it is our home, and we're very happy to be here. Although I think the staff are a little bit annoyed because I reckon normally when we're filming, they're cracking beers.
Yeah.
And they have to keep working today.
It's suddenly very quiet because it wasn't 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. It's very quiet. Okay.
Now, in other news, big weekend for the agents of Perth. REWA Awards were on.
Yeah.
We need to say congratulations to a couple of people. Linton Allen from Empire Property Solutions, Janet Abbott from Willow Tree Realty, Scott Swingler from Space Realty, Eric Hartanto from Harcourt's Applecross, Max Pro Real Estate, One Residential, Top Realty, Duet Property Group, Realmark Coastal and the agency. They all took home the big awards on the weekend.
Beautiful.
So very well done.
Well done.
Your team, Shane, killed it. Number 2 for you?
Well, there's no team, unfortunately. Hence why the bags
One
on the rise.
resi.
Our office, we took
Your
it out.
office,
We
sorry.
won.
Yeah.
So very happy
Killed
with
it.
that. I think a good thing was to see, I guess, a good turnout for staff. Again, the real estate agents that win the awards, they tend to go a lot of these sort of things, but you actually see some staff there enjoy a night. Well, we're saying the Terps or a night out. I'm not sure allowed to say.
Was it a big one? Because I know you had to kind of wait. Obviously, it was delayed because of COVID. So
I think there's restricted numbers, which is a bit unfortunate. But again, a lot of the companies now, the bigger ones, you've seen their own award nights rolling out. I think Realmark had theirs, Ray White had theirs recently. So I guess next year, fingers crossed, they'll be bigger and better.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Damien Collins did a fantastic job on the night, and did Tim Gossage fresh from retiring.
Yeah.
From
He's
Channel 10.
He's
So you see a bit of Goss lately
John
now.
Farnham returned to us.
He's back. He's back.
Goss is back.
All right, guys, we have a lot to get through today. We've got a big show. So we're very quickly going to discuss our in the industry topic, which we can't ignore, which is vacancy rates.
Yep.
And the announcement by the state government that they are going to extend the emergency period tenancy legislation for all residential properties, which obviously is probably going to put a little bit more pressure on those vacancy rates.
To say the least.
To say the very least. Damien Collins, who we just mentioned, and the friend of the show, said it appears that the government has used the pandemic as an opportunity to introduce rent control and meddle in the free market. Comments?
Look, I've been a fan of Mark McGowan. Most of the things he's done, take the politics out of it, just policy. But this one here makes no sense. I think if you speak to most agencies across Perth, people, because of the stimulus in place by the federal government, have been pretty good with keeping up to date with their rent. So to introduce this, I think it's scary for commercial landlords. So just take a moment to think the economy is booming in many of these circumstances and industries, and they've got 50% rent holds till March next year, which is madness. And as far as the residential, we've got people that, with the market being pretty healthy, finally getting the returns they should be getting, and they're hamstrung until potentially March. Yeah. You can't sell a property because you're not going to risk being penalty interest by selling it with a tenant in place. And then second of all, holding rents back until March next year when we've got obviously this demand. It's just, it is exactly right. You are controlling the market. But when the floodgates open, there's going to be a lot of pain, and we'll be thinking back to these conversations they're having now going, maybe if it was trickle effect, but it's going to be like a big wave, I think.
Yeah, I think they've used a one cap fits all mentality, which I don't think we should have, because Australia's got all these moving parts and all these different economies going on at the moment due to COVID. And as we know, the West Australian the vacancy rate's through, I think the official one's 1.3 now.
1.3.
But I actually believe
2007
I actually believe that it's lower than that. And you have many businesses, Jess, that had already got rent increases through, and for the first time in about 5 years, investors were starting to get a pay rise, if you like that. All that now has to be reversed. And then you've got this perfect storm. You go, well, where's the sense in this? Because it's not needed. Sure, if there was a real issue back in the thrust of COVID, you get it. But right now we were out of that, and there was some momentum there. The market's got the momentum. It's like just throwing a whole heap of brakes on them when it didn't need to.
Very quick question in terms of the investors. Obviously, there's a lot of new apartment stock and that kind of thing coming on. Is that going to affect them buying that type of property?
Well, the investors, I mean, we're not seeing that many investors come to market until this was removed.
Yeah.
So this has pretty much prolonged that again
Yeah.
for another 6 months.
Yeah.
My concern is for the investors that have finally seen that window of opportunity to get out. And they've been, the headspace for so many people, losing 20, 30% of their value of a property, finally having the opportunity to get out, and the government's policy is restricting them from selling a property. It's pretty concerning.
Yeah.
It really is. The negative equity, we've spoken about this obviously with Mark and Lindsay. We're finally back to a point where some people are seeing that opportunity, and to have that extended again, I really worry for many people.
Yeah, no, and the fact is it just came out of the blue as well. Yeah, because everybody was gearing up.
I was like, that can't be right.
No,
When
because
someone
everybody
told
was
me.
gearing up. The emergency period as such had ended, and everybody was right.
Yeah.
We can rent increases, we can do this, we can do that. I mean, and probably the big thing too that Shane mentioned is a lot of investors had held on to properties the last few years for the hope that one day that there was equilibrium for what they paid. That was basically getting there, and all of a sudden it's like bang, taken away from them again.
There we go.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
It'd be interesting to see what the next few months holds then.
Yeah.
Won't it? All right, we're on to our next segment. This one is a little bit different today, a little bit of an extension of it in the industry, but we do want to welcome on a very special guest. Anyone who's been watching the show knows that we've been talking a little bit lately about Keystart and about affordable housing. So we wanted to get on an expert to answer some of the questions that we have been wondering. Please welcome onto the show Lindsay O'Sullivan, the Chief Operating Officer of Keystart.
Guys, hello.
Very, very kindly offered some of his time today to answer some of our burning questions. To kick things off for us, obviously we know a little bit about Keystart, but if you can just give us a very brief rundown of the program and who is eligible.
Yep, sure. So Keystart's been around for 30 years. An initiative of the state government of the day, the time. They recognised there was a gap in the market where there was people who were sitting in particularly the private rental market, who could afford to pay a mortgage, but were really dealt out of the market because their ability to be able to save a deposit. And that's become increasingly more difficult over the last 3 decades. The requirements of the banks, major banks, has been shifting more towards higher deposits, and the cost of lenders' mortgage insurance has also gone up quite a lot. So if you don't have a 20% deposit, you're going to need to trump up some lenders' mortgage insurance, and that could cost $10,000, $15,000 for a typical buyer. So what Keystart does is it solves that problem with a really simple solution, which is a low deposit. So we do 2% deposit for the metro area, and no lender's mortgage insurance. So people could typically get in really easily with, as long as they've got a good credit history, they've got good stable incomes, being able to get into the market really quickly.
Beautiful. Tell me, we've talked a little bit about the stock that's Keystart owned versus what are the properties that people can purchase?
Just to clarify, so Keystart doesn't own any properties.
Okay.
We're the lender in the market. So at the moment, about 90% of everything we do is a home loan like any other. So it's a 2% low deposit home loan for people buying, in the open market. We support the Department of Communities through their shared ownership program, and we do that by providing the finance, and then we act as an agent for the housing authority through that process. That scheme is for people who are on slightly lower incomes, can still afford to pay a mortgage, but their borrowing capacity is obviously a lot lower. So the housing authority acts as a silent partner, if you like. And so it's their properties that they've developed through the Department of Communities program. And they would normally provide, up to 30% of the equity of that home they provide, and the owner of the property has 70%, and we're the lender behind that 70%.
Okay.
It's one of those, you brought up a good point when you're talking about that gap in the market.
Yep.
One thing, before we get into the tough questions about Keystart, one good thing that I think Keystart has done is we had situations, and I think, again, Mark, the areas we do a lot of work in, we had people earning too much for a bank, but not a big enough deposit. So too much for Keystart, not a big enough deposit for a normal bank. By lifting that threshold, so last year, I think I did 4 sales for Keystart for the year. This financial year, I've done, I think, 12.
Yeah.
So it's certainly brought a lot of people that couldn't get in there, and they're just stuck. And with this rental crisis happening, they're going to end up paying potentially $150 more in rent than what they would be in a mortgage. So I think it's really good that they did look at that.
Yeah, we've had really good support from government allowing us to move the criteria. So the income limits at the moment is for a family it's $155,000 in family income. Couples is $130,000 and a single is $105,000. And that's gone up by sort of $10,000 or $15,000, and that's opened up about another 15% of people being eligible for. Well, we've seen a 15% increase in applications from that cohort. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, over what period of time? That was the question I was going to ask. Have you seen through the last period sort of more of what's the spike of the demand of?
Well, with the additional grants that we've seen over the last couple of months, we've seen our volumes double. So from May, June through to July, August, the application volumes have doubled.
And with the demographic market that sort of taps into, have you seen a shift in that, or is it that
Look,
remained pretty
as
stable?
a general rule, over 30 years, what we find is typically Keystart customers are younger, so in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Typically they're first home buyers, typically they build. And the reasons for that is, if you look at the incomes, typically younger people are on lower incomes as they build their careers and their incomes start to rise. And typically people, the first time they look at the market is when there's a life change. So I've moved out of home, I've got my job, I've got a relationship, we've got a kid, I've moved location. So they're the triggers, and they're typically with their younger people. Yeah. And then the other reason why they build is because of the grants act as a real incentive for people to take that step to build rather than to buy. That 10 grand, or at the moment it's a lot higher than up to 55,000, is a big incentive.
Yeah, absolutely.
With, I guess, when you mentioned there about most of them building, do you think a lot of the people that, I guess, when they're ringing the builders to say, look, I've heard you've got a low deposit scheme in order to buy, do you think that's to do, I guess that's the reason why you're getting a lot of those Keystart? Because still we're seeing in the market quite often, I meet people, or I meet a tenant and they're like, I'd love to buy it, but I don't have a big enough deposit. And I'm saying to them, have you heard of Keystart? Obviously I'm not a mortgage broker, but have you heard of it? And I'd say more often than not, they say, no, I didn't know that.
It's a really good point. So we did a bit of research a couple of years ago, because over the last couple of years we rebranded, we built a new website, we've physically relocated our offices. Yeah, thanks. Pretty proud of that one. And what we found through that is, what was really interesting is the last step of the process for most buyers is thinking about the finance. And we would encourage people to think about that first. Work out what your borrowing capacity is.
No one does.
And so what they typically do is they ask their mates and friends. They might ask parents if they're younger, but they typically don't. And then they'll go online, or they'll go to display villages, they'll see the ads, and they get triggered, and they'll go to the builder. The builder then works with them with the option of obviously building. They're referred to a broker. The broker looks at the customer and says, look, Keystart's the right product for you. It's not always the right product for every customer. And then they go through the Keystart process. So we're often last in the process. What we would like to see is people thinking a little bit earlier about what their options are, because building isn't always the right option. Sometimes the better option is to buy an established suburb where you're closer to work or closer to transport. Keystart's not always the right solution for you either. If you've got the ability to save for a deposit, have the patience, save a little bit longer, you might get a different option that's more suited to you. But a good place to start is the website. The website gives you some options to go and check your eligibility and how much what your borrowing capacity is.
So what are you guys doing in the market? Because that is one of the things we talk about all the time, is the promotion of the program. What are you kind of doing in the market aside from?
Yeah, it's good. So the first step was getting our digital presence right. So the website has been a big part of that. We've invested a bit more heavily in our social channels, so Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, just to talk a little bit more what we're doing from an economic development point of view. We have had a campaign in the market recently, some digital advertising and some radio, just to try and reinforce that message around what we're there to do. There's a lot of misconceptions about what Keystart does, like we own property, or we build houses. You name it, we've probably been accused of it. But really, the thing we focus on is just that low deposit home loan, and that's what we're trying to get the message out. One area we've been a little bit lighter on is the real estate market, because most of our customers build, and so we don't have as high a profile with the agents. That's something we would like. We're members of REWA, and we're a good sponsor of REWA to try and get that brand out there. But I think within that market, there's been a lot of turnover in the real estate market in the last 10 years. So people may not, the agents themselves may not know enough about us. And if you're not sure, if you're an agent, you can pick up the phone and give us a call, or go online and check us out.
With big question, I think reps will really want to know this at the moment. Do you have any idea on turnaround times?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That is something that...
Yeah.
And
So
I must admit, earlier in the year, Keystart, they were flying through. Because you actually see if they're eligible,
yeah.
you screen them probably a bit tougher than I reckon some brokers do.
Yep.
And they're going through quicker than banks.
Yep.
But I'm sure that's not the case right now.
Well, at the moment, our turnaround times have definitely blown out,
Yep.
And that's the case across the whole market. So ours haven't blown out any more than anyone else's.
Yep.
But to address that, there's a few things we've done over the last few months. We've done some further investments in technology, which has sped up part of the process, particularly the back end, so the signing up process. Rather than we used to have paper-based, it's all gone to DocuSign now. And we've just recruited some more people to in that lending process to try and speed that up. But to get a pre-approval, it's around about that 15 to 20 days mark at the moment. And that's gone from about 3 or 5 is where we were, or 5 to 10 where we were a few months back. We think that has now peaked based on the volumes we're seeing. So they've started to ease. And with some of the changes we've made and the additional people we've got on, hopefully that'll start to pull back a bit more now.
And I think it's quite easy for, especially builders, to blame Keystart for taking time. But quite often, if you've got that volume and they're not being submitted all the appropriate documents, it seems to be, you need that, then that. Well, it obviously blows out.
So look, we've got really strict criteria, and the reason we do is, we like to think of ourselves as the poster child of responsible lending. We it aids no one if we just lend money. We're not profit driven. We're not our people in our teams aren't driven by volumes or anything like that. So we require a little bit more information to do that fine get that fine tooth and comb it through someone's financial history to really understand, can they genuinely afford this loan, not just now but in periods where rates are going to go up, because they will at some point, or if they have periods of hardship, because things happen in people's lives that they don't plan for, like a loss of a job, relationship breakdown, illness or whatever it might be, and they need to be able to absorb that for a period of time.
Let's go just pull a thread there for 1 second, which I think is a really everybody talks about interest rates. They are what they are at the moment. From a modelling point of view, something I'm certainly interested in, I think a lot of people would be, when you do some modelling on an application, what sort of interest rates do you plug into that in the next, probably like 3, 4, 5 year window or something? What are you guys thinking?
So we look at obviously the current rate of the day, but then there's a margin on top of that, and you're kind of looking at about that 6 or 7% mark.
So
it goes up and down based on what rates are doing of the day and based on what the regulator's guidance is. We're regulated by ASIC. The bank's regulated by APRA. APRA have some pretty strict rules around that. Now they've loosened those a little bit last year. We generally tend to follow what APRA is doing, in the way that we assess it. So we'll always assess someone's affordability based on a high rate. Plus there's also additional buffers in there that we factor in, because people aren't necessarily clear how much they're spending. That we can guarantee if what someone says they're spending, their expenses, their declared expenses are always lower than what they really are. And we're trialling some new technology to try and help customers be more aware of that before they've gone through the full process.
I'll give you my wife's number, mate. If you can give her a call after that, it'd be good.
Well, maybe you could assess mine too. I have the same problem.
If you an interesting thing there, I think the market has caught out a lot of these buyers where they had the right intentions to get into the market, potentially avoid LMI, lenders mortgage insurance, but because the market pulled back, they just couldn't get it in front. So I'm hoping the people that do the right thing, make the next step, buy a property. I'm not saying it's a real estate agent, but I think time will tell that you're going to be better off at the end of your career. If they can actually get in and then maybe be disciplined enough to change to a normal bank, they can come out in front. Because of that gap.
Well, we've been around 30 years. When the average, and we're a transitional lender. Think of us as an incubator for the banks. So we get people in who probably the banks wouldn't even look at. We can show these people can afford a loan. They can service it really well. That they manage their money well. They build some equity and they move on. And that's what we want to see, because we can then recycle that debt.
What time do you find that goes in?
Over the last 30 years, it's been about 5 years. Now, in the last few years, that's gone out a lot longer because the prices have come right back. And also depends on when you bought. If you bought at the peak around that 2012 to 14 period, the reality is that most people with any lender, they're going to be in a period of negative equity. Now, the good thing is most of our customers have a long-term view with their property, and they're able to weather that because for most people, there's stable incomes and employment and etc. But there are some people where that becomes more difficult, and we've got a hardship program where we work with customers to try and get them over that period of time if they get into that
I
point.
think it's a great product, and as I say, the more we can get Keystart aware to people, because the people that have brought through Keystart right now, I think in 3 months' time, are going to be grateful they did, because the rents are going to,
Go up.
maybe 6 months because of this.
It's a good time to buy.
On
Yeah,
that
it's a good
note,
time.
we will have to wrap up because we do have a lot to fit in.
Yeah.
But Lindsay, if people want any more information, can you tell us the website?
So it's keystart.com.au. Really
Beautiful.
simple.
So if you do want more information, head to the website because it is definitely a great program.
I'm an old person because I haven't heard any of the ads, but then I listened to 882, which has been given that
Is
the
that still on air?
demographics. Well, mate, there's no Keystart.
What's his
name.
AM thing?
Yeah, I know.
Shane
So-
keeps it on air by
Oh,
calling.
yeah.
Like Bob Bormal.
He always gets straight through to talk back.
Yeah, I know.
He's on the course.
Exactly. Keep up the good
Well,
work.
thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Lindsay, thank you so
cheers.
much for your time today.
Yeah, pleasure.
Mm,
Yeah.
All right, so back to our regularly scheduled programming, onto one of our favourite segments, I think, of the show. Next up, we've got our Hood Highlight. And we're welcoming on a very special guest, someone who's not afraid of putting himself out there on video. If you've seen any of his videos on Facebook, you will know what I'm talking about. He was just named number 7 in the assisted salesperson category at the RERA Awards on Saturday night. Please welcome to the show, Max Grogan from O'Neill
you.
Real Estate.
Number 7 with the number 1 assistant, I have to say.
Who's the assistant? Who's the assistant?
Oh, well, there's Kelvin Beckingham, tremendous assistant, should be number 1. And there's also my wife as well, who is a whole other category. And
Well
Rewa,
played.
Rewa needs to have that category named, I think.
Yeah.
Well
Just
played.
look out, because I can see Shane's
I'm
Shane's
just
looking
saying,
for an
wives
assistant.
of real estate agents
Yeah.
are very special people, but very patient people.
They are. They
And
are.
you can't poach them, so that's lucky.
Well, you
Yeah.
can-
Anyway,
Well, it's happened before.
This is $1 million listing.
People poaching
Yeah.
wives is actually a big part of how we make our money. You know that, right? That's where the listings come from.
The poaching wives of
Yeah,
real
yeah,
estate.
I've got so many things I could say, but I'm...
Come on, just keep us in check, mate. Let's go.
All right. The Shane Beaumont of Kelmscott is what we like to
No.
call you, Max Grogan.
It's not. That's,
Wow, that's
It's a miss, that's
that
a
is
miss.
such a
Is it
compliment.
an insult or a compliment?
No, it's a compliment. Absolutely. I have to say, I mean, around home I don't wear socks, but it's
Classic.
Love it. I love it. You
It
are
is-
born and
it is
bred.
cold in. It is a bit colder in Kelmscott, but it is a bit colder.
And then there
Off the
hills.
Darling
Yeah,
Scarp.
down the hollow there, yeah.
get that easterly whipping around your feet. Yeah, for sure.
Born and bred in Kelmscott. Number 1 Asian out there.
Yes,
Tell
indeed.
me, how's the market out there at the moment?
It's been amazing. I've 14 years in that office, and 14 years in the industry, and I've never seen anything like what we're seeing at the moment. It's just phenomenal. Yeah, people everywhere.
Beautiful. In terms of values, like sales prices, people showing up at home opens, how's it kind of looking across the board?
Sales prices are surprising us again, which is great. We're getting some really excellent results there. And I don't do home opens. I do most by appointment. And it's been phenomenal numbers of bookings for each of those. So last week, or a couple of weeks ago now, actually, I had 3 that I listed on Friday night. Had 108 inquiries for private inspections come in over 3 days.
Were they done in multiple groups?
Yeah, so I block out a window and I will have people come through, preferably one-on-one,
Yeah.
maybe 2 at a time if there's
Yeah.
a bit of a crossover there, but multiple people throughout the course of that window, and I might be there for 3 hours. It's a lot more work to do it that way, but at least you're having a meaningful conversation.
We've spoken about it during the COVID situation where we had to.
Yeah.
We had great months, but the ratio from appointment to offer was like 1 in 3 because you've qualified them, driven past the home, you've had that good, and you owe it to your owner to actually know who's coming through their home.
Absolutely.
Forget the COVID side of it, but I think it was actually much better too.
It can just be a different experience. I think there's a place for home opens. Certainly wouldn't say that they should never be done, but there are times, especially when it's like this, where you're really needing to explain to buyers that there will be multiple people interested, there will be multiple offers, and you can get an understanding of what their numbers, what they're actually looking at, and what they're like in terms of the offers they're competing against.
I think the days of, I think you'd probably agree, I hope you agree, the days of just putting it online, pumping them through the home open, in certain areas maybe to meet more vendors, but I just don't think you can really get the best result when that's a one-trick pony. It's not the silver bullet.
No, definitely not.
Especially in those areas where you say you've got such a mixed bag of properties.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I like that bespoke experience almost, like, because one of the core things that I think this industry hasn't done particularly well through that, home open sort of experience, is having meaningful conversations with people and having the ability, I think, to demonstrate the home.
Correct.
And I think that's one of the things that I've always sort of longed for, really, is when you go through a property, it's a bit like the car industry you've got now. When you go to look at a car, they demonstrate the car.
True.
They turn this on, open this, and whatever. And I think, given what you're doing, you can demonstrate the home. You can open cupboards, say how this works and that. And I think that whole experience is fantastic.
You can't take a home for a test live, but it's kind of the closest thing you can get to it.
We have been known to jump on beds and just and in baths and things like that. We do test them, don't we, Jesse?
One of the
Together, but,
one of the really interesting.
What?
You brought into Beds Plus or something. One of the interesting things about Mark's area is that you've obviously got, the scene in Lion King when he's like, "Don't go over there." Do you feel that sometimes you've got obviously the Clifton Hills, which is premium,
the dark shadowy place.
yeah, and then you've got the left. But when you're working in an area like that,
what are you calling the dark shadowy area?
I'm saying just like if you live on that top of the hill.
You never
You
fuss
don't live
sitting
in
up there and
Kelmscott.
saying,
Right.
You live in Clifton
don't
Hills.
go over that area.
Right.
So it's quite different when you say, "Oh, you've got that beautiful up in the hills of Kelmscott." No, it's just Clifton Hills. So I think it's really interesting when you're dealing with properties that potentially $1 million down to sub 200.
Yes.
You're obviously going to have to look at different marketing methods, different methods to show properties.
Yeah.
How you deal with that with owners, because I guess they're all Kelmscott properties.
Correct. Every single one is an individual process, I suppose. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would never, that I only use a certain marketing strategy on a property up there or a certain marketing strategy over there. When people have their, opinions on every suburb, I suppose, if that's kind of what you're alluding to with that. But, Kelmscott, I've lived in Kelmscott most of my life and I've never had an issue in that area. And I don't know if I know I look threatening and all of that. And I do wear some fairly menacing pocket squares, but it's
only real men wear pocket squares.
100%. But I think down in that area, the people that are local don't seem to have the same opinion of the area. And obviously the people who are in Clifton Hills, which is our higher side of the area there up along the Darling Range there, it's a beautiful spot. And the views are outstanding. Some really nice homes up there too. Those people, they in their minds, they would never go and live on the other side of the railway line. And we find that area is somewhat aspirational locally for people who live on the other side of the railway.
Question in regards to values. You mentioned before you've been surprised by some of the prices coming through. Have you got some of those areas, we've been talking a lot about the negative equity, are they coming back? Have you found a lot of your sellers dealing with that, and is it coming back up to meet perhaps
surprisingly quickly.
Yeah?
Surprisingly quickly, yeah. We've had quite a few people where I've been talking to them for the course of the last 3 years and they've been really concerned and looking at it and going, when can we make a move? It's not even necessarily that they want to be out of the area, but they're stuck with an investment property or whatever it might be. And there's been a lot of conversations, especially over the last 4 weeks, where we're ready to go now.
Okay.
Yeah. My only concern is that they're all ready to go all at the same time. And suddenly now we haven't, we don't have a supply issue. And the prices aren't where they were.
What's hot? What's not?
Oh, look, at the moment, acreage is hot. Anything with...
Do you think it's anything to do with COVID?
I was going to ask
It is
that.
a big part.
Lifestyle.
It is, I think that people who got stuck on 300 square metres, which around our area is considered, to be quite a small block, 300 square metres with 3 kids and a courtyard, and they're going, we've got to make a change. We've got to make a change. And they might be looking for 800 square metres. And the 800 square metre guy, he's going, I've got to get a couple of acres. So we're just seeing quite a bit
closing in on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many 300 square metre sites.
we've got this really nice sort of transitional thing happening within the area at the moment, which is brilliant.
That's nice.
I was just saying to the guys and Mark earlier, to have those, we had a couple of sales this week. Literally, I'd been speaking to that owner for a couple of years to say, look, when it gets to the point you're going to get your money back, we'll go to market. And those two have surpassed that. So one thing I've noticed is if you had your property appraised probably 4 months ago, you probably owe it to yourself to have a chat now, because that data is really the peak COVID.
100%.
And it's just changed so quickly.
Yeah, it has.
So if
Are you finding buyers are responding to you guys saying, because the news is talking about like numbers from 3 months ago, so it's still fairly, if you look in the newspapers, it's still fairly negative, where you guys are saying, we're go.
I just don't see where it is. Like this, the pain that they're talking about, and we get a mixed bag of owners and properties. Across the board, it's just tightened up. So 10,300 across the whole of Perth. Last year, 15,500. Average days, what's average days now in Kelmscott?
Oh, look, I'm going to call it as 21 if it's right.
Yeah.
And as long as it was before, if it's the wrong price, it's really, it's so dependent. So the average days I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but it's happening quick if it's priced
Would
right.
you say halved from last year?
Yeah, comfortably. Yeah.
So we were saying at the moment it's 44. I used Gosnells just for example. That was out to 79. That's 44 at the moment. Like, it's changing. So where the people, and the problem is mums and dads watching the news tell young Billy, don't go too hard. Now, Billy's been chanting at the bit. He's paying too much rent. He's living with two of his mates. He wants to get out because he's got a new girlfriend. They're emotionally not invested like Billy. You know what I mean? So
I would say that throughout the course of all of this, the thing that that throws you every time is that the media's talking about a lot of job loss, and this could just be a WA thing because we are in such a great place at the moment. But I have not had one sale since the start of COVID where someone's gone, I've lost my job, something's happened, I've got to go.
Yeah.
All of it has been, we actually just want to make a lifestyle change here, or selling an investment property and so on and so forth.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Another interesting thing about that area with, again, two different sides of the road or different pockets of the area, the old auto valves. When the buyer comes in with a big hitting because he's broke, has printed it off, or he's got it from the bank. How out are you seeing some of these?
Miles, like just laughably out.
Yeah.
And it's
for those that don't know
about those.
Well, again, we'll use this example with
Can we
Kelmscott.
just quickly tell people what that is?
Well, the auto valve is basically a desktop which grabs, in essence, data that should grab the right data, but doesn't. 3x1 on 800 square metres. Kelmscott, within 800 metres. Now, that's
450.
potentially on the other side of the road.
Yep.
They don't know. The auto valve doesn't know that you've just gone and put marble bench tops in.
They
You put down lighting. You've done other things.
The computer's never done a walkthrough of that house. And it's some might say it's a stab in the dark, it's a stab in the data. It's just pulling all this information going, probably.
Yeah.
But because it's coming from an official source, or what people see to be an official source, being a bank or CoreLogic and so on and so forth, that makes them think, well, this is legit.
It's the Bible. And we've had people, I know I've personally had guys miss out on 2 or 3 in a row because every time he puts an offer in, the guy's, well, this is the auto valve. We're talking 40,000 difference. So I think
it hasn't caught up with what we're experiencing.
And that's purely that as a buyer, you need to, don't just swipe on the phone. Get out there and go through 5 or 6 properties, check them out.
Yes.
Because they don't always look as, well, you sometimes see the old TVs that looks more like a bench on the wall because of the fisheye lens.
Surely, if you're serious about buying a home, you're out there looking.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Or no?
Well, because of the
Hot
FIFO,
tip, guys.
if
If you're looking to buy a home, get out there and have a look at the home.
Well, that's
100%.
you'll very quickly.
But I think
get a benchmark with
the
things.
difference is now, the first decision years ago, and I've spoken to this before, years ago you'd have to get in the car, drive to the front of the house to go, no, this isn't for us, and you move on. The first inspections now, while MasterChef's online. So you're eliminating that first process to go, hang on, this actually has potential because of this, and this. You're just eliminating it.
Yeah, and I think there's also a fairly large number of people now who are working FIFO, and with the change in, especially a couple of months ago when things were really kind of at the height of the adjustments there, we had a lot of people who were away for 3-4 weeks at a time. So the information that they were accessing was only online. We did start to see a few more people making offers sight unseen. They'd send mum through, send the sister through or whatever. But now, a lot of those people haven't actually had a chance to get out and see things because by the time they get back, the stuff they're interested in is gone.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap you there because that was very, very good conversation. Thank you very much.
What do you think?
Yeah? Good combo.
Good. Max says it's all good.
Max says it's
All
all
right,
good.
so we can
Fantastic.
move on.
Yeah.
Roscoe, you're up. Under the hood with Roscoe.
Mark, we only run this show to be able to get to this point.
It's the only reason I tune in.
Everything's leading up.
This
This
is the moment. Okay, so hood highlight, mate. Under the hood, Kelmscott, Clifton Hills. Let's go there. So, mate, you're obviously very successful. 14 years in real estate, say? 14?
Yes, that's right.
14
He
years.
started when he was 10.
Started, absolutely.
Same office the whole time.
Yeah. That's really good.
He's
a one club
I think
player.
we need to give a little hand to the O'Neill office because all of them in there have been working there since they were 10 to 15 years old.
Yeah.
Months,
and
15
have
months.
been there
So.
for 15 years.
What it actually says, Jess, and Mark, this is obviously interesting comments because one of the things everybody talks about in a business is culture. Everybody's trying to get a great culture because culture creates stickability, and stickability is what you want for longevity and so forth. Obviously, they've got it right.
They have, and they're actually.
Who's the owner there?
So Rowan and Berwin Wisk, two brothers.
Okay. They're not O'Neill's.
No, they're not O'Neill's. They purchased it from O'Neill's. So O'Neill's started it in '57.
Wow.
And just running out of a house on Abbey Road in Armidale. And so it was John O'Neill who started it. Then it was O'Neill's. It was his son, and now the grandson works at O'Neill's for the Whisks. So it's had an interesting sort of ownership structure over the years. But they're really family focused kind of guys. You know, they are not super industry kind of living and breathing it. Rowan and Berwin not selling agents themselves. So they've got a very, very good handle on just the business side, and they give you a lot of autonomy, but they're also there and very supportive as well.
We did do an episode of The Crunch with Mark, his brother, and Con, talking about this. So if you are interested, you can have a listen. If you want some tips on culture.
Thank you. Jess, nice little segue.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcast.
Jess, this is my segment.
I know.
Right out. All right, okay. So, mate, Mark, first thing, highlight of your career, mate. After 40 years, what's your biggest highlight?
Look, probably the biggest highlight would actually probably be being in the industry. I wanted to do this since I was a kid. I was 10 years old. In fact, I was
The apple's not falling far from the tree.
not far at all. I would have been Max's age. There's my son over there. I was Max's age when I said I wanted to sell real estate, and just was so stoked to get started and loved every day of it really. And the other highlight, obviously, being invited onto Perth's premier real estate podcast. That's right up there as well.
There you go.
And
You talking about this one or you talking about her one?
No, the other one.
No. And now you invite us to the most watched TV program on the planet. Okay, fantastic, mate. You can leave now. Okay, mate. COVID. Obviously, one day when the curtain comes up and we can get out into the world again.
Yes.
What's your bucket list go-to place?
Look, it's
Don't
if you asked me
don't
2
say
months
Clifton
ago,
Hills.
there's some beautiful places up there on Airbnb. No, there's look. If I'm cold, I want to be warm. If I'm warm, I want to be cold. So right now we're in that middle ground, and I don't know if I want to travel at all because it's quite good weather. I'm a fairly flighty person who obviously can't fly.
Okay.
Yes, couldn't name a place.
Okay.
Wherever it's cool in about a month.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. The 40-degree stuff, don't want to know.
Not my scene. Born and bred in this place, still not made for it.
Yeah. I lived in New Zealand for 15 years. That took care of all that for me. Trust me. Mate, in your probably little time off, Netflix recommendations, what you go to?
Oh, look, can I get preachy?
You can do
Permission to
it.
get preachy?
You can do it.
So I hate TV and Netflix. I cut my TV aerial when I was 20, pulled her out, cut it in half, never went back.
Yeah.
What? You don't have a TV?
I don't have. I've got a TV like monitor. If I choose to watch
Just can't
something
plug it in.
kind of on a DVD in the old days, or on Apple TV or whatever, I might choose to watch a movie. But
What's your favourite movie?
look, I wouldn't say I've got a favourite movie. I'm a real struggle. That's a boring guy, isn't it? I like to watch a lot of this
I mean,
show.
you're doing other
so
stuff.
I go back onto to watch other episodes of
He's
Off
done
Market.
number
Just watch
one.
lots and lots of Off
It's
Market.
off,
Yeah.
mate.
I've got
So
favourite
basically,
episodes.
so you
No wonder
saying
you
we
work
should
so much.
probably get this on Netflix.
Yeah.
Right, look, I mean, Netflix had a tweet that went out years ago that said sleep is the enemy, right? And I truly believe that is their goal, is to just make people zombies. Well, not
Correct.
They're doing a good job.
That's going a bit extreme, but they are
Their
making
number
people
one
some
competitor
pretty
is
crazy.
these ones, games,
Yeah.
not TV.
Yeah.
No.
So there you go. What a dullard.
No,
Apologies
mate.
for that.
I'm with you, brother. Okay. Mate, next big question, biggest fear. What's something you fear?
My greatest fear is, it's a bit of a new one. It's only come into sort of strike me fairly recently.
How recent?
About 4 weeks ago.
So it's a bit raw. So we're
It
hitting the
is
flesh.
to the day.
Yeah.
It's a major real estate stuff up. So you know what it's like when you're doing an appraisal. You go through, you kind of know your thing. It's 3x1. It's a 4x2. Oh wow, look at the size. Yeah. So you do, because you're working in a market where most things are fairly the same. You would agree. And anyway, so I'm going through
Properties,
this house.
yes. People not.
People not. And that's the thing, because a lot of it is you're trying to work out the people. And so I'm walking in this house, and it's a bachelor house, and like surfboard in the lounge room, packet of chips next to his bed. I go into the kitchen. There's an esky on the bench because he's FIFO. He's just come back from work, and
I think I phrased this. I think I praised it.
you probably did.
I'm joking.
It's more in your neck of the woods. Anyway, so I go into the kitchen, and I'm seeing on the fridge because I know his sister. And I'm like, oh, it's his sister's birthday party invitation, a photo of his nephew and niece and stuff. Anyway, we go back to the sister's house because that was where we were talking about what the family's going to be doing in terms of making decisions about where they all live. She only lived just up the road. And we get chatting, and I said, so it is a bit of a bachelor pad. You kind of need to maybe give it a professional clean. Suggested some numbers for professional cleaners, and his sister goes, oh, actually, I should probably get that number too. That's kind of handy because it's my birthday soon. I should treat myself. I said, yeah, you should. So your birthday's coming up, I believe? And she goes, yeah. And I said, is it a big one? And she goes, yeah, it is. I said,
Oh, God.
like 50? And she said, yep, how did you know? I said, I saw the invitation on your brother's fridge. And she goes, what invitation?
Oh, it was a surprise party.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark.
You're kidding.
No. So I...
Oh no!
surprise!
I didn't appraise that one.
Yeah.
Wow. So
I thought you were going to say, like, she was turning 30 and you guessed.
No.
I thought that was where you're going.
Yeah, I thought that. What do you mean?
I
50
wrecked
on
the
40?
surprise party.
You're pregnant. I'm not pregnant.
Did the
That's
rest of the
sort
family there? Yeah. Did they all just go,
No, they said, oh, what party? What party?
oh, God.
So
They really hit it
Everybody
well.
sort of pretended.
And everyone just
happened.
everyone just beeped at the same time.
It sounds like just saw that movie Tenet. It's like that. All of a sudden,
yeah.
back in time.
You know,
I haven't seen it yet.
And you know how you're trying to backpedal, and you're just trying to change the topic, and it was just way too obvious. It was too obvious.
Okay, all right, mate. Busy life, family man, busy world. What's your decompression chamber? How do you decompress?
Again, it'll sound as dull as the Netflix thing. The best thing you can do is to just go to bed. At the end of the day, when you've had one of those days,
What if you can't sleep, though?
if you sleep, the next day comes a whole lot
Do you want me to
quicker.
go
That's
right?
true.
So you're looking for a new day, you're looking for a new start. Just get the new start to hurry up, go to bed, have a sleep, wake up in the morning, it's a brand new day already. Let's just roll with that. That's the way I work.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've been doing it all wrong.
Yeah, mate, clean living man. Shane Beaumont, you need to take some tips off this man. Now, mate, this isn't on script, but this is for the benefit of Shane.
Oh, right, sure.
Yeah, it's being the foodie gurus we are. We're going to start, we call the shots around town.
Yeah.
Mate, favourite place to eat, favourite dish, where do we go?
Whoa.
Anywhere, doesn't have to be local.
Anywhere. Okay, so we're not going to just promote the local.
Wherever.
You can do both.
Millbrook,
You can do both.
Millbrook Winery down in Jarrahdale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Beautiful.
tremendous place to eat. Beautiful position.
Yeah.
Support local businesses. And Zaffarano.
Yeah.
They were on.
Moved.
They've moved. Yeah, they were down
Where have they
next to the
gone
old Swan Brewery. They're on
Outram
Outram Street
Street.
in West Perth.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you, mate.
Beautiful.
Go
Do
back to you, Jess.
That
Hang on,
was
one
great.
more.
Oh.
Best coffee in Kelmscott.
Yeah, it'd be at Hidden, at the Hidden Cafe.
At the risk of saying this, where is it?
It is well and
Clifton
truly hidden.
Hillside.
It's at the back of an old shop, which they mostly all are in Kelmscott. But yeah, just at the back of a little old shop. It was a space that someone was running a bike repair business from, and he goes, "I don't like the coffee up the
Is that in your
road."
fan coat?
Yeah, that's right.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So go in there.
Okay.
I've been in there,
Brilliant coffee.
but I had a cup of tea.
Oh, well.
Sorry.
Well, so this is a wild show today.
Yeah, that's right. We're walking in the wild side.
Have a cup of tea and go to bed. That's the message to the agents of Perth.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on my mic.
What's going on in here? We need Ghostbusters in Crib Creative House.
Anyway. Sorry
Okay.
about this, guys. Excuse me. My
Yeah.
mic tape's just come off.
Okay.
So, moving on.
Yes.
Now, we normally go straight to play of the week, but this week we've got a special little treat for you. Because we did throw to him earlier, Mr. Max sitting in the corner, Mark's son. He's a bit of a real estate guru from what I've heard, 8 years of age. And he has offered to do a little quiz for us because we want to keep Shane on his toes. So, Max, come on down. Join us in the show.
Keep me on the toes.
Go stand on down
last
next to your dad.
Mate, he's been keeping me on my toes
Welcome.
for 8 years.
Okay.
Hey, mate.
Now, Max is a big real estate fan.
Yeah.
So he's prepared some questions for you guys. Max, do you want to tell them the rules or do you want me to tell them the rules? You can tell the rules? Oh, me? Okay, so guys, we're going to do this in the style of quick draw.
Yeah.
So Max is going to ask a question. You guys have to buzz in.
Right.
Shane, it's Gosnells versus Kelmscott.
Gosnells,
So
they're both
your
too
buzzer
small,
is
so-
Gosnells.
Yep.
Mark, yours is Kelmscott.
Can I have Clifton Hills?
Can you what?
Can I have Clifton Hills as my buzzer?
Yes.
Thanks.
You can.
Can I have Martin?
Go for it.
It's when you make it in Gosnells, you move to Martin. So.
All right.
The Banyula Regional
So it's
Park is
Martin
just
versus
between us.
Clifton Hills. Are you ready, Max? Have you got your questions prepared? Over to you, mate.
Name 2 parks in Gosnells, Kelmscott area.
Gosnells. John Dunn Reserve, Robinson Park.
I forgot.
Hang on a second. Can I just ask a question here?
That's one of each.
Yeah, was it supposed to be one of each?
No, it can be 2 from your area.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
I should get a bonus.
Oh, sorry. Can I also just give a disclaimer because I have forgotten to put the answers on the sheet.
So we get a.
So we have to determine whether or not we've got the correct
Which
answer.
should be an issue
All right.
until the final question.
Well, I got that one.
You got that one to Shane.
And if you want another park, Chelsea Reserve.
Okay, don't show off.
Fry Park is a tremendously...
I played at John Dunn. I actually played for Kelmscott.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
for
My name was on
Bulldogs.
the board there. Well, I did
All
play
right.
for Bulldogs.
Yeah, okay.
Max, it's back to you.
Name 3 schools in Gosnells or Kelmscott.
Kelmscott.
I think I got it.
I
Who do you
Shane
think got it, Max?
Be honest.
St. Munchins, great school. Can I, in one suburb?
Yeah. Yes.
Wirrabirra and Lumen Christie.
Is that Gosnells there, mate?
Martin, I said I was
Is it
Martin.
the city of Gosnells? Or okay, all right, no, that's fine. It's fine.
I went there.
Yep.
All right, Max.
Hence why I'm a real estate agent.
Name 2 restaurants in Gosnells or Kelmscott.
That was definitely Kelmscott.
This will be good. What have you got?
Hoggies.
Yeah, Hoggies are going to have.
Hoggies.
All right. They can both be in Kelmscott, can't they?
Subway
Yes.
is not.
Yeah, Subway doesn't count. Okay, so I'm going to have to go to Gosnells for the next restaurant.
That's tough.
No, that's Macca's. It's not counting either. Yeah, so Gosnells.
Guys
we're-
out.
Yeah, we're out.
Oh, you've only got one.
No, we've only got one in Kelmscott. But we've got some tremendous cafes, and you've got the Gosnells Hotel as well. You get a lovely meal there, right?
You can
Do
have
we?
it.
Okay, you can have 1 point for that. All right, Max.
There's got to be something else. Porky's is on the border.
Porky's is right on the border.
What was the top-selling suburb of the river in WA last week?
Sorry?
South of the river. Top selling south of the river.
Baldivis, Beaumont.
You didn't buzz in.
Kelmscott. Kelmscott.
Coming for you,
Kelmscott,
Elsie.
I'm gonna throw
I'm
it
coming
to
for you, Elsie.
Kelmscott, I'm going to throw it to you.
Maybe Baldivis. Baldivis, I'd say. Yeah, pretty, yeah.
Yep,
Pretty
one to
well.
Kelmscott. All right, we can't. Max,
Really
this is
stuffed
a
that one.
tiebreaker now. This is our last question, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a tiebreaker, so don't forget to buzz in correctly.
Did they turn the aircon on? All right, this is it.
You ready, mate?
Okay.
What is the difference between the total number of properties on the market this time last year versus this
Beaumont.
year?
Gosnells.
Kelmscott.
Shane did say Gosnells, so
The
we
total
will,
difference would be in the vicinity of 5,000.
I'm going to have to give it to him because I do not have the answer.
It's actually about 4,000. It's actually about 4,000,
That is-
and you would know that.
He didn't have the answers, he had the questions.
That was so good, Max.
Well done.
Maxie.
Well done, Max.
So, if you're looking to get ahead in this economic times, restaurants in the Kelmscott, Gosnells
Gosnells
region.
area.
They're calling for it. They're calling for it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not in the right.
There's actually a stack in Kelmscott, and I probably should have mentioned that there's the Brookton Burgers, which are tremendous. That's in Kelmscott. We've also got Kim Valley Chinese Restaurant. The
pies.
The place to
Very
be.
good bakery. At the shop. He's won a lot of
anything
awards.
classed as restaurant.
No, but I'm saying you've got good pies there.
Yeah, tremendous pies. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And they're award-winning pies. And,
Actually, they are award-winning pies. Every local
Right.
rag front page.
Well, Mark's just brought himself back from the brink of being
Yeah.
ejected from Kelmscott as the number one agent.
Yeah. Good save, mate.
Max, that was an excellent segment, one of my favourite
Well done,
ever.
mate.
Thank you so much, mate.
Thanks.
Thanks, Max.
Do you want to hang around down there while we quickly do Play of the Week? Because it's a very fast segment. You can just hang
with
out.
us.
So, Play of the Week, guys. Has anyone got a nomination? This is why it's very fast, because no one has a nomination.
Not this week. Well, I did hear about an appraisal in Kelmscott that went wrong.
The agent. I heard about that one.
No, it's all right.
I've got a Play of the Week that I'd like to nominate, and this is to our very own Shane Beaumont,
Oh, God.
who is going to be a dad.
I am.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you and Sam.
Very looking forward to having an offsider,
Hey,
much like this setup.
that's it. So in
They are
a
awesome,
few
I've got
years'
to
time,
say.
we can have a Max versus Little Beaumont quiz.
We could.
There you go.
Brilliant.
That is it. If anyone else has anything to add,
No.
Well done.
Well done to the award winners.
Yeah, well done to the award winners.
Everybody, well deserved. Tough
Thanks,
year.
Crib, for having us here.
Yeah.
Thank you to Lindsay O'Sullivan from Keystart,
Yeah.
of course, Mark, and your wonderful son Max for coming out here.
Well done.
Thanks to the Crib crew who put up with us for a lot longer than I promised them that they would have to. Any results or anything that you want to share with the show, please send them through, and we will see you back here for episode 16 in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Well done.
I'll be the same.